Greetings, I'm Dr. Donald E. Grant Jr., and I join you tonight with the Black Democratic response to Candace Owens. Miss Owens, I hope you take an opportunity to watch this video and understand my perspective as I listen to the full 18 minutes and 52 seconds of your video. What I'm most interested in discussing are some of the statistics that you utilize to skew the story. You use the word martyr several times as it related to George Floyd and the movement that has been recatalyzed, understanding that his death did not begin this movement. It's interesting how you made such a deliberate effort to identify his rap sheet and those things that he had done wrong in the past in an effort to demonstrate why we as Black America should not be paying attention to this and looking for justice as it relates to Black deaths. You further identify statistics and skew them in a way that demonstrates that Black people have a higher propensity towards violence and that white people seem to be violently accosted by police more often. In 2015, it is understood that Black men, unarmed Black men specifically, were assaulted and murdered at 5 times the rate that of white men, unarmed white men. When we talk about crime, when we talk about over surveillance, and when we talk about rap sheets, I wore this shirt specifically so that you could see all these Black Americans who had multiple arrests, and you utilize that as your rubric, understanding that the school to prison pipeline and the initiation and development of the entire police system was grounded in Black disenfranchisement and oppression. I, like you, understand the fact that when we look at how we see Black America operationalize some of the things that we attend to, that it's problematic. However, you blame the victim. You blame those who are oppressed for their oppression. And what I need you to understand is that Black America in many ways is a function of the output of white supremacy and how it's played out. When we look at those individuals who are rappers, as you describe and support, if you really knew anything about the history of rap, you would understand that it came from a story, a set of narratives where Black Americans were feeling disenfranchised in their communities and needed to tell those stories. In addition to that one purview of rap that you have, you are actually demonstrating my point, considering when we look at those who have been awarded some of the top awards for music throughout history, we understand that those who are providing the message that you describe or discuss, the anti-message, were never awarded. So what does that mean? That Common and Talib Kweli and the Roots, and when we look at Black Thought and we look at all these other rappers who were never celebrated for their work until recently, like Common, but we understand that those particular stories were never supported in the mass media, not because Black people weren't supporting them, not because the inner city and urban communities weren't supporting them. That's just not the narrative that was sent out. What you do is you aggregate a lot of different data points that don't necessarily create a story, and you make people believe that correlation implies causation, and that is not true. I don't necessarily know what all your credentials are, but I'm positive that you are not as credentialed as I am. And when we look at the constructs that you describe and you display, you are really far out of your lane, and you're doing quite a bit of damage, not just to the Black community, but you're doing damage to white communities. You're doing damage to those who you call colleagues by supporting this false narrative that doesn't exist and making people believe through your articulation that it's true. Do you understand that Black women like yourself are dying on the birthing tables at 10 times the rate in some municipalities than others, that the Black infant mortality rate is really, really large and out of control right now, and it has been for centuries? Do you understand that Black incarceration is a significant problem? Do you understand that individuals in London and France and Canada are marching on behalf of Black lives because they understand that the systems in which they exist also produce these outcomes? It's interesting that you lay out the entire rap sheet of George Floyd, but you rarely seem to mention that 10 years ago, you and your family received a $35.7 million settlement for a racist act that happened against you. What I'm wondering is, are the scars of your traumatic experience with race impacting and informing the way that you move through the world? What I won't do is drag you through the sand. What I won't do is drag your character through the dirt. What you do, you seem like a relatively intelligent young woman. However, I see a lot of internalized oppression, and I see that you are being negatively impacted by the tropes of systemic racism, so much so that you're unable to see it. I don't know how your family feels about what you do. I don't know how any of your childhood Black friends feel about what you do, but I personally feel a little sorry for you. I understand that experience back in high school was really traumatic for you. I don't know what it would be like to have white guys calling my phone, calling me the N-word, providing me with death threats as what it appears that happened to you. But what you can't do is what you can't take this opportunity to tear down the Black community in the way that you're doing. For years, women have fought against the narrative of, in rape cases, people asking them, what were you wearing? How much did you have to drink? This is the blame the victim mentality that you are currently utilizing. When we talk about a man like George Floyd and we look at the systemic structures associated with racism, and we talk about the business continuity model associated with our current existence, you're denying all that as though it didn't happen. You're denying the fact that we have systems in place that have been in place for generations that deliberately work to disenfranchise. Now, I'm not providing an excuse for things that don't happen the way that they should. I'm not providing an excuse for those who engage in criminal activity. But what I am doing is encouraging you as a young Black woman who is probably going to regret your narrative 15 years from now. What I am hoping that you would do is do a better job at being a Black woman who supports outcomes for Black people. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't be a Republican. That doesn't mean that you can't be as pro-white as you are. I don't need you to be anti-racist because I don't think you currently have the developmental capability to do so. But what I do need you to do, I do need you to focus on the fact that Black people are dying at a disproportionate rate. You can maintain your narrative. You can keep getting your checks as it relates to you being kind of utilized in this forum. And I respect it, kind of. But what I don't want you to do is make it such that white supremacists get false data points to deny the systemic disenfranchisement of Black people in this nation and other Euronormative nations because you have not dealt with your own shit. This is problematic on many levels. You, my sister, you have blood on your hands. And you need to understand that.